Thank you for watching PBS. Coming up tonight at 7, Inside the Actors Studio, followed by The Cat Whisperer at 8 p.m. Next, Unsung Sheroes, Women of the Civil Rights Movement.
Strong people don't need strong leaders. This was the message that Ella Baker aimed to teach the future generation of civil rights activists. Ella was born in Virginia in 1903 and grew up in Littleton, North Carolina. Her parents were both educated children of former slaves. It was her mother who instilled in Ella the value of commitment to community service and racial uplift. Growing up in small-town North Carolina, she was raised in a community rich with Southern Black culture. Being raised with strong traditions of self-help, mutual cooperation, and sharing economic resources helped to form the basis of her early political awakening. At the age of 15, Ella began attending Shaw University, where she proved herself to be quite the young activist. She questioned the school's conservative philosophy and joined with her classmates on several occasions to protest the rigid regulations imposed on Shaw students. After graduating valedictorian of her class, Ella moved to New York City, hoping to find an outlet for her intellectual curiosity and concern for social justice. Her experience in New York proved to be a turning point in her life, as it had a huge impact on her evolving political consciousness. It was in New York that Ella joined her first political organization, the Young Negroes Cooperative League. The YNCL emphasized the full inclusion of women and the importance of grassroots involvement and empowerment. Perhaps the principle of the YNCL that most influenced Ella was their emphasis on a non-hierarchical leadership. Another organization that helped to forge many of her ideas was the Workers' Education Project, a program designed to equip workers with basic literacy skills and educate them on workforce topics. During the 30s, she also supported and worked with various women's groups such as Women's Day Workers and the Harlem Housewives Cooperative. Around 1940, Ella joined the NAACP, first as a field secretary, and then in 1943 she became the director of branches. As director, Baker fought to democratize the organization, and through her field work she helped to build a network of contacts in grassroots African American communities, which proved to be an indispensable resource. Baker became frustrated with the top-down bureaucratic structure of the NAACP, so she resigned from her director position in 1946. However, she continued to volunteer with the organization and became the first female president of the New York branch. In her role as president, Ella was a leader in school reform campaigns and sought the desegregation in New York City schools, heading a coalition called Parents in Action Against Discrimination in Education. No matter what group or organization she became a part of, Baker refused to be regulated to a separate women's sphere. She participated in meetings without reservation, even when she was the only woman present. Many of her closest political allies she worked with were men, including the famous Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. In 1958, Baker moved to Atlanta to coordinate on the Crusade for Citizenship, a voter rights campaign launched by MLK and the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. The crusade sought to raise awareness among African Americans that their chances for improvement were dependent on their ability to vote. Although Baker respected King, she also felt that the increasing reliance on his public persona to mobilize people was channeling the civil rights movement and energy in the wrong direction. She did not like that the organization was run from the top down, and she believed that strong people did not need strong leaders. In February of 1960, 4 African American students sat down at a whites-only lunch counter at a Woolworth store in North Carolina. The men were refused service and were asked to leave. Instead of leaving, the men who have come to be known as the Greensboro Four stayed at the counter until the store closed. The next day, 20 more students joined them and the sit-in campaign officially began. Ella, already dissatisfied with the leadership of the SCLC, immediately shifted her attention to what would prove to be the cutting edge of the growing Black freedom movement. She took a position in the regional student office at the YWCA to remain close to the students and help maximize the momentum of this new upsurge in mass direct action by African American youth. She utilized the YWCA as a base of operation and helped to recruit new members for the organization. In April of 1960, she called a conference of the sit-in leaders, and the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee was born. The SNCC was an alternative to the more politically moderate and hierarchical civil rights organizations. They were militant in their tactics and egalitarian in structure. The independent organization was based upon principles of grassroots democracy and a decentralized, group-centered leadership. The SNCC offered women, poor people, and youth, three forces Baker saw as the backbone of the movement, the ability to contribute to the movement. The SNCC embodied the principles and politics that Ella had fought for most of her adult life. During her work with the SNCC, she served as an experienced adult advisor, a role model, and an intellectual mentor to many of the young SNCC leaders. Ella Baker's behind-the-scenes work during the civil rights movement earned her the nickname Fundi, a Swahili word meaning a person who teaches their craft to the next generation. Ella took it upon herself to help people, both young and old, recognize their own capabilities and powers and understand how they can use them for the greater good. Ella Baker believed that if you give people the light, they will find the way.